Alrighty, I'm going to introduce our first candidate. Her name is Niki Conforti, and if she is here and she's running for the 6th Congressional District.
Yay!
Yes, you're Niki Conforti. Hi everyone, what a great turnout today, and a big thank you to the ladies for pulling this together. As you know, I'm running for Illinois Congressional District 6. You know, I grew up not far from here in Riverside, about 10 miles north up on Harlem. And my aunt taught at Correa School in Palos here in the district for over 50 years. So I've been coming down here ever since I was about 4 years old. So I know this, I won't say like the back of my hand, but very well. And it's like coming home. So I was happy that the district included these areas. You know, I'm not a politician. I'm not an elected official. I'm really just one of us. I decided to do this over a year ago. I didn't like the way the election went. And then January 20th, we had 45 executive orders. This country took a sharp turn to the left. I had a pit in my stomach that just wouldn't go away. And I wasn't going to sit on the couch and watch them take this country away from us. Thank you. So I decided to take a stand. I reached out at that time to the head of the GOP, Don Tracy. He was new in office. And I told him, I'm not a politician, but I'm willing to make this run. But before you know it, I had a team in Washington, D.C. working with me. I announced July 1. And a lot of things have changed since then. The district looks a lot different. I used to have one opponent. Now I have 5. But one thing that hasn't changed is I'm still in it. I'm still in this fight to take this country back. Because you know it and I know it, there is no second chance. We as Republicans need to pull together, work together, and make this happen. Because if we don't take this district back and flip it red now, then we're all in a lot of trouble. And our kids are in a lot of trouble. And they're the ones that are going to be paying for it. So, yeah, just to tell you a little bit about who I am, I'm a single mom. I am a daughter of an immigrant. You know, I'm a lifelong resident of the Chicagoland area. Even went to school here. I'm not a vet myself, but I have a long history of vets in my family. All the way back to my grandfather fighting in France in World War I. My uncle was Rainbow Division, fought in Battle of the Bulge. My dad, Korean War. On my mom's side, my grandfather came through Ellis Island and fought in World War II to gain his citizenship. That's right, he fought in a world war to get his citizenship. He didn't just walk across a river with COVID. My uncle's 1 Army, 1 Navy. So I'm not a vet, but I definitely have the fight in me. And I am willing to go to Washington and fight for us. You know, my top 3 issues and I guess we're all, you know, it's not going to be anything earth-shattering. I think all the opponents of mine, we all have the same concerns. Number 1, crime, right? I've gotten to be very good friends with Sheriff Jim Mendrick, DuPage County Sheriff. And I don't have to tell you, come January, when the safety legislations come into effect, it's only going to get worse. They're taking more and more of their resources away. So we have to do something about that. Our kids, we have to get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic in school. We have to stop the sexualization of our children. It's happening at 3 years old. I have a friend that works preschool on the north side. And I asked her, do you see this in your school with your kids? And she said, yes, at 3 years old. They can no longer address them as girls and boys. It's just one. And so they're starting already to sexualize them at 3 years old, and that has to end. And I don't have to tell you, cost of living is through the roof, right? Costs more to put food on our table, costs more to put gas in our car. I just filled up today, $75, and I don't even have a big vehicle. It's outrageous. So just to tell you about my background, I'm an energy consultant. I support oil and gas. I am an MBA in healthcare. I work to deliver healthcare. I owned my own small business. I worked in the job market, so I understand the staffing and the job market, how to get people to work. And I'm an undergraduate in economics. What does that mean to you? When I go to Washington, I'll be able to understand the legislation, make better decisions, because I'll know how it's going to impact you and me here in the 6th District. So vote for Niki Conforti on June 28th. Thank you.
So the next candidate we have for the Congressional District of the 6th is Rob Cruz. So let's hear it for him.
Hello, everybody. Oh, hello. That was a little loud, wasn't it? That's okay. Wake you up there, Keith? Sorry. My name is Rob Cruz. I'm a candidate for the 6th Congressional District. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm a dad first. I'm a girl dad, actually. She's sitting right over there. You know, I'm a husband. I'm a small business owner. I'm in the construction industry. I'm an advocate for the most part. I don't know if you guys remember the vote no against the tax hike progressive. I worked on that. I got to say, thank you. My line was, vote no on the tax hike amendment. And then I got a chance to get on the mailer. And this is where my political ambition started to spark. Went out to 4 million people in the Cook County area. I got to see all the data. And how did we win 57 to 43? Because, you know, we all know as Republicans in the state, we're outnumbered, right? So who crossed over? For one, it was a small business owner, 44.9%. They crossed over. Unions crossed over. And just in general, hardworking people that are sitting, trying to bring their families out of poverty, they crossed over because they knew they were going to get the short end of the stick after that. For me, my campaign is very, very simple. I don't believe in complex, especially in construction. It is put the safety and education of the children first while bringing back jobs so that the middle class can thrive. My dad, growing up, was a Teamster union guy, worked in a factory. My mom worked in a factory too, worked her way up to the president of, she's the president's assistant for HR, I believe. And my mom and my mother-in-law, my wife, and my daughter are here tonight because I do think it's important for you guys to see who the women that shaped my life and who I am and how I'm being held accountable at home, right? I do put the toilet seat down and I clean the dishes. So how do we get there? How do we put the safety of our kids first, right? We obviously all back the blue in this room, but how do we actually get that done? Everyone has a different idea, and no ideas are bad and no ideas are great. But from the federal government standpoint, we have very little influence. But I do want to recommend one project that I researched and researched and researched. It's called Exile. It's happening in Richmond, Virginia, or did happen. They're trying to bring it back now when Youngkin came back, and their new attorney general. It's a short-term partnership with the federal government. If you got a gun, you're not supposed to have it, guess what? You get 5 years minimum sentence in a federal prison. That's how they're doing it out there. Crime, in 1996, crime went down by 36%, 10 months. And in 10 years, it went down 60%. Could you imagine picking up one of these kids that we find driving around town or on the highway or at the mall or at the store or somewhere with one of these guns and they never get to come back? What would that look like? That'd be great. Right? So that would be my recommendation. You know, and then our education system. We all know about sexualization of our children. We all know about, you know, quote unquote CRT. But what no one's talking about, and I have a sister that's in education, is standardized testing. Standardized testing needs an overhaul. because all the kids are doing is memorizing the tests, because the teachers teach the tests so that the teachers can get money. And that's not learning anything. How many people here have hired someone in the last 10 years and you give him a problem to solve and he comes back 20 minutes later or she comes back and says, I don't know what to do. Happens to me every day. Right? And then when we're building these schools, and I was on the school board, it's not a secret. I know we tore down the home ec place to build a liberal arts theater. Now, I'm not saying you don't have liberal arts theater, but we didn't move the home ec somewhere else. And it's gone. And apprenticeships. That education system, it's older than our education system. It's as old as time. You grab a young person, you teach them the ropes, he grabs the next person, teaches them the ropes. We're also telling our kids in high school, if you don't go to college, you didn't make it. Yep. That's a lie.
That's right.
One of my best friends, who makes more money than all of us, he barely graduated high school. So we have to get back to this culture war that we're in. And that's part of it. And then lastly, jobs. We talk about, we got to bring jobs back to the middle class. Well, that means we got to start supporting our private union brothers. It's the one thing the Democrats do that we don't. We have to find a way to figure out where the balance is with them. So with my campaign, I want to start us choosing better education, choosing safety, and choosing better jobs so that on June 28th, you're going to choose Cruz. Thank you very much.
The next candidate we have for the 6th Congressional District, I can't speak, is Gary Grasso.
You know, there's an old saying, if you are what you eat, everybody's Italian. My name is Gary Grasso, and I'm running to be your congressperson in the Illinois new 6th. We all are going to talk about some similar things, but I'm going to start at the top. We need to be energy independent. And why? You've seen why. You've seen exactly why. Just over a year and a half ago, we were energy independent, and we let that go. Well, we didn't here, but the Democrats changed us and made us vulnerable. Okay? What's the first job of government? To protect people and property. We are not getting protected by any of our policies. Energy independence will be a priority for me. You want to have wind? Fine. You want to have solar? Fine. You want to have safe nuclear? Fine. Let's look at those things. But you do not give up your security and give up what's been given to us by God under the ground.
Yes.
And make us vulnerable, which we are. Is there leakage? Is there a crisis on the border? I think so. Was the former president's policies in Mexico and on the border, was it correct? Well, it certainly seems to have been correct. You can argue about how to solve the problem, but it certainly is a problem. Title 42 stays in place. It was working. Why in God's name would you take it away? I will fight for border security. I will fight to make it easier to be a legal alien. We are a nation built on immigrants, and we better make it darn hard to be an illegal immigrant in this country. I'll give you one exception. There should be a fair pathway for DACA. We let them come here, and we can't turn them away now. We're always a country of balance and fairness. Crime, well, I'm going to talk about crime. It's in my village, and I'm uniquely qualified, I will tell you, to represent the new 6th because it straddles almost equally between DuPage and Cook County. Burr Ridge, 40% in Cook County. I'm the mayor of Burr Ridge for over 10 years in 2 consecutive terms, and 60% in DuPage County. I've lived in Cook County. Janet and I lived in Western Springs for 13 years. We were members and still are of the St. John of the Cross Parish. We raised our 6 children in Cook County in Western Springs. We now have 6 adorable grandchildren, and we're waiting for one more to come in August. But crime is different now. When I was the mayor of Burr Ridge originally from 05 to 12, not an issue. Not an issue really in Cook County or in the DuPage side. Now, it's everywhere. I've given you this, I don't know if you've heard of this. We had a crime in Burr Ridge. Our officers tackled the criminal, handcuffed him. What was the first thing he said? What county am I in? And my officer said, the wrong one. And that's not fair to you. You deserve to be protected, and I will make sure that happens. We will get the U.S. Attorney to get on Kim Foxx to do her job. It's a unique idea, but we follow it in DuPage. If you commit a crime, you're going to get prosecuted, and you're going to go to jail. Which is why that perpetrator asked that question. So, I'm Gary Grasso, a little bit more about my background. 4 terms. 4 terms as the mayor, DuPage County Board, and also 10 years on the Board of Health, and we kept Burr Ridge open during the pandemic. Didn't lose a restaurant, lost 1 business. Thank you.
Our next candidate for the Congressional 6th District is Scott Kaspar.
Good evening. My name is Scott Kaspar. It is an honor to be back with you guys, with you ladies tonight. This is such a wonderful organization. And so my name is Scott Kaspar. I'm running for the 6th. I'm not sure what that is. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm an intellectual property lawyer. I'm a husband of 15 years to my wife, Beth, and I'm a father of 2 children. I have 2 kids, a son, Caden, who's 9, a daughter, Caroline, who's 13. They go to St. Mike's here in Orland Park. We live in Orland Park and have for the past decade. I'm a full spectrum conservative. I'm pro-life, no exceptions, and I'm pro-family. In fact, I recently received the endorsement of the Illinois Family Action as the pro-life, pro-choice candidate for this race. I want to speak with you tonight about some of my motivations for running. When I was with you last month, I spoke about my father. He escaped a communist country. He came to this district actually and raised my family. He was a kid. He escaped war. They lived in Germany for a while. He became a U.S. citizen when he came here and raised my siblings and I. We lived in Oak Lawn for a while. We moved out to Lisle, then ultimately out to St. Charles, where I went to high school. By all definitions, my father has lived the American dream. And really by the same can be said, I've also lived the American dream. And really, actually, all of us in this room have lived the American dream in that we live in this country. It's the greatest country on the planet.
Amen.
I want to tell you another story about my motivations for running. When I was in law school, I was sitting in evidence class one morning, and I went to law school. It was in the early 2000s. This was, my second year of law school is when I took evidence. Second year, right? It's probably been the same. I had a laptop. Back then there was no Wi-Fi, so I was plugged in. There was a few of us that had laptops who were plugged in. And it was about 9 in the morning. And I remember looking at my laptop, and I had CNN running because back then it was okay to have CNN running. It was a different station back then. And there was across the ticker, it said, airplane hits World Trade Center. And I remember looking at that and, thinking, that's weird. And then all of a sudden CNN blew up, right? I remember raising my hand, and my professor looked at me and he's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, there's something going on. He's like, there's nothing going on. We're doing evidence right here. And so this went on for a period of time, and other people were raising their hands, no, there's something going on. Of course, we all know how that day turned out. It was one of those days when I sat in my apartment. I remember it being eerily quiet. There's no airplanes in the sky. And I remember thinking, this is a turning point, not only for our country, but a turning point in my life. That day I lost a colleague of mine on the 95th floor, Karen Fitzgerald. I remember a few weeks beforehand, he was telling our friends that he's on top of the world, and he was for a brief moment of time. A couple years later, I lost a really good friend who I met in college in Army ROTC. He wanted to be a general. It was his life's mission to be a general. His mission, his life's goal was cut short by a roadside bomb in Afghanistan. I have another friend who still to this day, he may be with us, but still to this day, he suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder from that time. I'll tell you, there were two people on CNN that day and in the following weeks who got our country through that time. One was a guy named Bernard Keurig. Bernard serves on my public safety task force. Bernard's helping me to come up with real solutions for crime and to come up with a plan for what we can do in Congress to actually fight crime here in Chicagoland in the face of people like Kim Foxx, who by design want us to be living in chaos. There's another gentleman on TV. I guess there were two. There's George W. Bush, and I like him a lot. But there's another gentleman on TV who we all knew as America's mayor. I'm really excited to announce that he has joined my campaign. And Rudy Giuliani will be coming here May 25th. We have a dinner event. There are details about that on our website at kasparforcongress.com. I guess in the remaining seconds that I have, I just want to say I have one other event. It's on Tuesday, May 17th. It's going to be at Abington Banquets in Glen Ellen. And it is an event with Darren Bailey, James Martyr, myself, and Mark Carroll. We are the endorsed candidates of the IFA, and we're having an event on my website. Thank you so much.
Okay, now as the moderator, I have the special privilege of introducing our special guest today. Kathy Selvey is running for U.S. Senate against Tammy Duckworth. And my dad is telling me that I was supposed to say Tammy Duckworth less, but yes, she's a duck. A lifelong resident of Illinois, Kathy Selvey started working in high school waiting tables. She graduated from Loyola University with a bachelor's association in communications and a JD from Chicago-Kent Law School, and she passed the Illinois bar exam in 1984. Kathy and her husband, Al, have 6 children and 3 grandchildren, and they reside in Mundelein, Illinois, where Kathy remains active in her community. Everybody, can you give her a big hand?
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you, United Southland. Thank you, Karen. I have to tell you, I welcome all of you ladies to join my little nest. I didn't expect to start this way, but this woman I have known forever. She's like a sister. And through the years, I could tell you stories. I remember when our dear friend Barb, I got to know Karen through a political campaign. And the best way to politic is you do it with your heart. You lead with your heart. And politics is easy when you love people. Hi, Dave. And I'll tell you, I can't thank you enough. I never would have thought I would be a candidate for the United States Senate. But I'll tell you, I feel I've been in my whole life. I have been a conservative Republican, and I've stood for it when it wasn't popular. And I'm just honored to be a candidate in this election, and I just feel it in my bones. We are going to defeat Tammy Duckworth in November. I know firsthand how important it is to have a strong candidate at the top of the ballot, and this is what I want to be. I know they say it's a long shot against an incumbent, especially in the state of Illinois, a blue state, but this is not going to be a blue state after November of 2022. I have now traveled at least to a quarter of the counties in the last 2 months and many of the townships, and I'm just honored to be here with you. And I sort of feel with Karen here, I could sort of treat this group like my own kitchen table. So if I get a little bit, and I only have 3 minutes, right? So let me make it quick. We will deliver this race because we're going to appeal to people of goodwill. Republican, Democrat, never voted before. We're going to energize them, not because of Kathy Salvi. It's because of all of us being a mini megaphone and a major megaphone to talk about the distinction in the issues. Now, with relative to Tammy Duckworth, she voted nearly 100% of the time with the Joe Biden failed agenda. And every one of us are feeling it. Just the lady who did my hair today, I said, what do you think about politics? Do you vote? And she goes, I have to pay $10 for my smoothie at Lifetime Fitness. And I'm telling you, if $10 smoothies at Lifetime Fitness gets her to vote for Kathy Salvi and all the Republicans down ballot, I'll tell you, we are the solution to these problems. Whether it be the runaway inflation, the cost of living, my daughter-in-law now, I have a 4-week-old granddaughter, and that little baby, she's like, formula, it's gone up 25%. So whether you can find formula on the shelf or you're paying 25% more for it, families can't afford it. People have to make decisions of whether they could have their child in travel baseball or travel hockey, or whether they could get the child across town to a birthday party that might cost half a tank to get there and back. So these are bread and butter issues. People are affected so long as we could give them the distinction between our candidates and theirs, the failed policy of the left, we will win. Also on issues of education, and also on issues of crime and the rise in crime. And there's not one community that has been helped by the soft on crime DAs. So I ask you all to come on board. How can you help? Go to kathysalvi.com. I'm looking to create a tribe of supporters from $5 to $5,800. What's most important that we have our strength in numbers, and each one of us feel that we can be accountable. This room is accountable for this election. We all will do it. So when people say, I don't bother to vote because it doesn't matter who you elect anyway, ask them to get out there and listen and realize that we have a talented slate of candidates who are going to make a difference, and I'm honored to be among them. And with that, do you take any questions, or is?
You could take 1 or 2 questions, I think. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and anybody have a thought or a suggestion? Yes, go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, seems like we have an issue with voter integrity.
Yes. Well, yes. So there's a question of voter integrity, and this is over 50% of the voting electorate believe that the election was either rigged or stolen.
That's right.
Well, in the state of Illinois, we don't have to talk about voter boosting the numbers. I am committed to this election in the state of Illinois reducing that. And how can we do it in an active and real way? I have a tape, by the way, back in a ward 26 years ago, a tape of a guy saying, how many votes do we need in this ward for Durban? It was impossible that Al Salvi lost 26,000 to 300. Even more than 300 people would make a mistake and vote for Al Salvi. So corruption in Illinois elections is not new. But what and how can we make a difference? I have been wedded to the voter integrity issues in the state of Illinois in this election cycle since 2020. In an active and real way, this is what has brought me to being a candidate in this race. And what am I doing? A number of things. As an attorney in the past, I've gone to polls. I've been on duty on the day of election to go and try to watch so the books aren't cooked. But what we can do here, learn when your local nursing homes and assisted living in your townships are holding their election, and make sure you have election judges there on the day. We will be sending letters to every single administrator, an executive officer of every nursing home. The Salvi campaign will be sending in the general election letters to every administrator that we're watching them, that we're going to learn what day, and so we're going to hope that the assisted living, where they have the memory care wards, that they're not all of a sudden just voting straight down. And these are the small but meaningful ways, and that's how they threw Wisconsin, by the way. And so we need to be accountable, and we can make a difference. I'd also suggest that you all sign up to be a local election judge. Go through the training, and then also Carol Davis is doing great things. She will hold auxiliary. Nancy? Yes. Talk to these two ladies here, and then get the auxiliary training so that you could be aware. And then when you go on election day, you need to have a backbone like no other. You got to be a mama bear protecting your kids. And by the way, that's how you just say no. You say, no, those are provisional ballots. They're not to be counted, and then you make sure that they're put away. I mean, we just have to be, as tough as nails as they are, we got to be tougher, and we will be, because there's no person, no Democrat, Republican, Independent who wants crooked elections in the United States. This is not a banana republic. And by taking hold and being very, training ourselves and being aware of how elections can be, ballot harvesting, we saw that. Did anyone see 2,000 mules this last week? Okay.
See it. Track it down. You must see 2,000 mules.
Right. So we watched it on the film on Saturday night in our home with a group of people. I think the awareness is really important. It's really, there's two ways you could go. You could throw the towel in and say, oh, we can't do anything, or you could fight it. And I'm here to work to fight, to make sure our elections are fair, and that every legitimate vote counts, and it's impossible to cheat. So, yes.
Question?
Can you challenge Tammy Duckworth to a lot of debates? Because the thing is where you ask each other questions. I think that's what we need to do, is we need to challenge each other's questions, because we know the issues. Instead of actually getting biased leftists that actually moderate those debates. Please speak.
This election, I am the candidate for this election at this time with these issues against this opponent. I never would have thought that I would be a candidate again on a ballot. But I know how to run a campaign, I know how to message well, and I will welcome every debate. The only one to defeat Tammy Duckworth is my former law partner, Peter Roscom. Peter and Elizabeth are very dear friends of mine, and I'm going to follow his playbook on that. But she doesn't know how to debate, and she is being used as a shill for the DNC because they feel she's in a safe seat. So, yes, Sean.
Kathy, thanks to Trump, and actually my father would say thanks to Ronald Reagan, but the ethnic community is coming to the Republican side. You and I, you and I had a long conversation about this, and I'm so grateful that you want to reach the ethnic community. They are conservative by nature. They've been lied to. And Kathy, we look forward to having you come out to the ethnic community across Cook County, because we need Cook County.
Amen.
You're absolutely right. Thank you, Pastor. And thank you so much for being here. Look at this packed room. And I have to say, you are not alone. I'd like to take a show of hands for people who've never been involved in really political work since the 2020 election. See? There, a lot of us are diehards. We've been around the block a few times and then some, but we're seeing new and fresh faces of people all around the state, and it's wonderful. And I think when we team up, there will be nothing stopping us, because we represent mom and pop all around this state who have never been heard and represented well. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for the invitation to join you.
Our next speaker will be Catherine O'Shea.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Catherine O'Shea. Thank you all for coming out. I'm a mother of 3. I'm 57, divorced, pro-life, pro-police. I have family in the police force, Chicago, and in Oakland, actually, and some friends in Tinley on the police force. I've always been fighting for what's right since I can remember. I learned that from my parents by example. My father was a union leader. He was in the Air Force, so I am pro-union. One union worker, and I've convinced a lot of Republicans about this, and I'm going to hopefully convince some of you. One union worker takes a family off welfare. That's less government. Isn't that what Republicans are about? Less government? Yep. Consider that. One union worker can insure an entire family, whether you have one child and a spouse or 10 children and a spouse. What I'd like to do, though, is to see if we can get the elderly on their adult children's policies. I'd like to work something out with that, see what we can do once in office. That's important. My parents had to live with me. I wanted them to live with me. They were both sick. My father had dementia. My mother had a lot of issues. But anyway, I kept going to their home every day, and I had the 3 kids and divorced. And so I would stop there every day, give my father a shower, wash up my mother, do the grocery shopping. I'd bring the kids with when I would do the grocery shopping and that. But my mother fell one time. My father was hard of hearing, so I said, look, why don't you move in with me? You know, there's room for you at my house. There's no room for us to move in here. So they did. I also had an aunt move in with me. She had a caregiver, and I used to check on her, and I said, you know, your caregiver needs a caregiver. I said, move in with me. So she stayed with me. If my family was here, they could tell you stories. I mean, they all know how I am and how caring and that I am. It was difficult. I mean, I'm 57 years old. I think people that are running for office, I applaud everyone who is running, because out of the 780,000 plus people in the district, in District 6, there's only 6 of us running. You know, so kudos to those that stood up. Real estate is my profession. I've done for 33 years. I know some people are saying, oh, she's a hairdresser. Well, I am a licensed hairdresser. My father and mother told me, learn a skill. Learn a skill. Because if a company you work for, whatever, folds, you have to move out of state, whatever, you can take that skill with you. So I'm a hairdresser, and I only do hair for the homeless now, for Almost Home. I give free haircuts to the homeless once a month. Since COVID, they stopped that. When they pick it up again, I even reached out to them. I said, let me know, I'll still do it. I know a couple times I was the only hairdresser there. I did 20 haircuts, and they said, you don't have to do 20, even though there's 20 here. And I said, no. I know what it feels like to have somebody else do your hair, you know, because I have done it. I worked in a shop. You have a pep in your step when you walk out of that hair salon. Whether you're a man or woman, you do. You have a pep in your step. It makes you feel good. So if that was the least I could do for somebody, I'm happy to do that. But real estate is my passion. I love working with the public. I've always worked with the public. I ran in 2020. I had 33% of the vote. No endorsements. I wasn't looking for them. I was out talking to the people. I've worked with the public my entire life. Housing and hairdressing, the 2 important things. Everybody needs a haircut and everybody needs housing. Okay, Nancy Pelosi and Lori Lightfoot needed it, right? I worked with people that have no money, where I waived my commission to get them an apartment. And I've also worked with people that have money to burn, so everything in between. But I hear them. I'm face to face with the people. I understand who they are, what they want, what their issues are. We all know, yeah, it's crime and the border. We need to close that. It's good to help Ukraine, but that money needs to help American people first, families first. I know there are pallets of baby formula heading to the border right now. So I would just ask you to support me. It's important, more women in Congress. Even Dan Lipinski last time knew, he was at my precinct. Out of all the districts all the precincts in the district, he was at my precinct on voting day. During Lent, at the fish fries at the churches, my parish. Out of all of them in the district, he was at mine. Do you know why? This is how the Democrats work. They knock your toughest competitor out in the beginning, and then it's clear sailing to the general. He knew I was his competitor. He knew it. The Republican Party did not, and that's why they handed it to Marie Newman. So thank you.
Okay, our last candidate for the 6th Congressional District will be Pekau. I can't speak.
Thank you all very much for coming. I'm Keith Pekau. I'm running for the 6th Congressional District. As most of you know, I'm the mayor of Orland Park. My background, I have a degree. I grew up in Orland Park. I was adopted and raised, adopted 7 years before Roe v. Wade, by the way. I moved to Arizona, went to Arizona State University, degree in aerospace engineering, went into the Air Force, flew F-15Es in the Air Force for 9 years, including 3 combat tours and 45 combat sorties. So I have experience going to war and serving our country. While I was there, I got a degree from Duke University, got an MBA, came back here as a consultant, then bought a small business. In 2017, I ran for mayor. During all that time, I raised 3 children, and now I have a grandchild as well. So, one thing I didn't hear anyone mention of the candidates is what we're here to do is to take back the House, defeat Marie Newman, Sean Casten, and send Nancy Pelosi packing. That's what we're here to do. All of the candidates here agree on everything. The difference is on most of these issues, I've actually done it. We talk about good government. I instituted term limits. I can't be a 4-term mayor. We eliminated pensions for elected officials. Lowered my pay 70%. Those are things we actually did. We'll all talk about taxes. Since I've been mayor, we've lowered property tax rates 30%. We'll talk about spending. We've lowered operating spending by 14%. We've lowered the number of full-time employees by 9%. All while still doubling spending on infrastructure while I've been in office because we took $52 million of debt off the books at the same time. That's in 5 years. It can be done. We'll talk about the economy. We all are dealing with inflation issues. $4.81 a gallon, just so it's double. It impacts businesses like Rob's. Has a huge impact on their gas bill, right? Impacts all of us day to day. How do we fix that? How do we control it? Well, I have experience as a mayor. We brought 600 new businesses to Orland Park in 5 years, even with COVID. When I was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, before I ever ran for mayor or anything else, I was chairman of the Illinois Vets for Energy. What did we do? We advocated for American energy independence because energy independence, energy security equals national security. I was on the record 10 years ago saying that we should be providing oil and gas to Europe so that Russia could not do what they did in Crimea and did again in Ukraine. Also, when we're energy independent, prices go down, businesses like Rob's, businesses like mine do better. Everyone does better because we have more to spend. We should be the world's leading exporter. What that also does is it takes money away from China and Russia, right? And so instead of sending money to our enemies, we're bringing it home. Plus, manufacturing will come back because we have reliable energy and the best labor force in the world. If our energy is cheaper, it'll come back all on its own. That's how you bring jobs back. We'll talk about crime. Since I've been mayor of Orland Park, we've lowered crime every year since I've been in office, to the lowest it's been in 27 years. We're also the 8th safest small city in the country in 2021. We were named the safest city in Illinois in 2020. We have the lowest violent crime rate of all towns our size, over 50,000 in Illinois, for the last 3 years. How did we do that? First and foremost, we support our police. When the riots were breaking out, we, the whole board, voted to make that month Orland Park Police Department Appreciation Month. You should have heard all the politicians going, you can't do that. We investigate crimes. We hold our businesses accountable. We make them cooperate with police. Walgreens had a theft. They refused to sign a complaint. So we cited them for conduct of licensee, and I stripped their liquor license for 2 weeks. That's how you deal with crime. We as a board were the only town that demanded Kim Fox's resignation. We're the only board that I know of that passed resolutions against HB 3653, the Safety Act. We also passed resolutions to modify the Safety Act so that our officers could safely wear body cams without threatening their careers. Then you all know about COVID. I didn't start talking about COVID and talking about our constitutional rights when I ran for office. I did it as mayor in April of 2020. My experience as a F-15E Wizzo, as a small businessman, and as a mayor make me uniquely qualified to serve in the 6th District. I will take out Sean Casten and Marie Newman and Nancy Pelosi. I will put people over politics in Washington, D.C., just like I have in Orland Park. Thank you very much.